Hi everybody, this is Psychiachix episode 4. We're going to be talking about masturbation and sexuality because it's a really important topic, but not many people speak about it because it's still relatively taboo, but I don't think it should be. So I'm Dr Kirsty Alderton, I'm a psychiatrist. I've got Dr Kirsty Alderton with me and Dr Nataly Gibson. So masturbation and sexuality, what a topic.
Ooh.
Little bit of psychiatric history for everyone. Masturbation in the 1900s was used as a cure for hysteria.
Chloe, this is a very serious psychiatric disorder. Nick, give me a moment.
Right. What is hysteria, Kirsty?
The library is open.
I shall tell you. It was once a common medical diagnosis for women, described as exhibiting a wide array of symptoms. Are you ready?
But what symptoms, Kirsty?
Anxiety, shortness of breath, fainting, sexual desire, insomnia, fluid retention, irritability, loss of appetite for food or sex, and paradoxically, sexually forward behavior and a tendency to cause trouble for others.
OMFG.
Wow, that was a serious psychiatric diagnosis.
Serious psychiatric illness, which was only dropped in 1952.
Oh, fucking hell, guys.
So basically, if you're having sexual desire or also not wanting sex, you're
hysterical.
And you went to the psychiatrist. You went to the psychiatrist and they masturbated you.
Indeed. They masturbated you. For people who don't know, the word hysteria basically means women.
Wandering womb.
It's all to do with your womb. So that basically meant, the disease of being female. So all those things, fluid retention, irritability. I'm very irritable, by the way.
Yep.
Anxiety. What else is it? Sexual desire, not sexual desire. Causing a problem. Basically just existing as a female. It's a psychiatric diagnosis.
And more likely, called a demonic possession, which was more likely to occur in single women, and due to sexual deprivation. And I'll tell you this: self-treatment was not recommended.
What? So you have to go to the pervy psychiatrist?
God. No. If you were married, you could relieve yourself within marriage.
Okay. This is just fuck off and die, you guys.
So what? So if you were single and didn't want sex, you were deemed to be possessed by a demon, and a male doctor would to heal you,
wank you off, to make you feel better.
Wank you off. Or you would have melancholy for life.
Oh, melancholy.
You'd be wanked off or be melancholic. I don't know. That's vile.
It's a difficult choice to make, isn't it? Depression, being wanked off.
It's like Sophie's Choice.
The thing is, though, you would turn up at the doctor's office, wouldn't you? And if they were hot, you'd be like, "Thank fuck."
I'll be like, "Oh, doc, got a touch of the hysteria."
I'm feeling that panic today.
so irritable.
Oh
my God. The world hates women.
That's actually how the vibrator was invented, incidentally. So the male psychiatrist, found that their hands were cramping up, bringing women to orgasm. So the vibrator was invented.
They couldn't even be bothered. They couldn't even be bothered to do.
That's a whole nother story, Kirsty. Let's not even go there.
Too much effort.
Right. I think that's really framed where we're going with this. And I think it really brings into perspective why there might be so much shame wrapped up around sexual desire and masturbation. As a woman, if you had, any kind of sexual thought, whether it's you don't want sex or you want sex, you were mentally ill.
Mentally ill. Some had to go to asylums. They had to go.
There was
you can't win. women, you're either one or the other, are you not? You either want it or you don't want it. Like,
well, it's almost like you're just not allowed to talk about it.
Yeah.
However you feel, just do not mention sex as a woman.
Yeah. I'm reading a really interesting book at the moment about female sexuality. And yeah, it's all basically based in shame. So really, it talks about how, as women specifically, so obviously what we're going to be talking about for the rest of the episode is obviously, you know, for everybody, but I'm just going to hone in on women specifically because that's what I've been reading about. But how women have been taught and shown and basically made to deprioritize their pleasure throughout history. You know, your pleasure, if you put your pleasure first, you're a bad person. And how that affects how women think of sex. And maybe that's why, you know, women having orgasms is more difficult than men and all this kind of stuff. You know, or even research, or even like a conversation about female pleasure wasn't even a thing until very recently. There's no research, there's not a lot of research on it. Like, no one gives a shit. No. But yeah, it's all based in shame. Shame.
Well, when the founder of Ann Summers, who was a woman, Jacqueline Gold, when she came up with the idea of Ann Summers, she took it to a boardroom of men and they laughed at her and they said, women don't enjoy sex. This will never work.
Yeah. It's not about the women, is it? It's about the men, and then the women just push out the kid.
Yeah, it's bizarre, but I can't imagine what was going through their minds. So they were having sex with their partners and assuming that they weren't enjoying it.
No.
But that was a better reality than to think their wives might have actually been enjoying it.
God forbid. That makes them bad people.
Yeah. God forbid a woman experiences sexual pleasure.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, don't talk about it too loudly. We might get sections. So
yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, if there's a hot psychiatrist, you know, it's been a long quarantine.
Descending into smut. Right.
Sorry.
There is actually a little bit of science behind post-orgasmic shame. So when a person orgasms, there is a release of something called prolactin, which actually decreases a person's amount of dopamine in the brain, and dopamine is one of our pleasure chemicals. So there is actually a scientific explanation for why just after orgasm people can feel a bit icky and a bit disgusted, shamed, and it's due to that rapid drop in dopamine.
It's called, I'll read out the definition. That's that icky feeling after you've, you know, been nice to yourself and you feel icky. It's called post-coital dysphoria, or the post-sex blues. Refers to feelings of deep sadness or agitation after consensual sex, even if the encounter was loving, satisfying, or enjoyable. In some cases, people tend to become tearful or depressed after orgasm.
Laughing.
What is the treatment for this? More sex?
Get to a psychiatrist, Kirsty. They'll bring the vibration around.
I just don't know who writes this stuff. Anyway, I'm going to keep drinking.
It would actually be, I mean, being serious, that's pretty sad. So imagine if every time you orgasmed, you became tearful.
Yeah.
But what's really going on there, though?
What's the evolutionary bit behind that? Not to have sex with someone else afterwards?
I think from an evolutionary point of view, it's about then becoming safe, isn't it? So you have sex and now there's a chance you might be pregnant, and the idea is to retreat. You retreat.
Yeah, because if you spoon afterwards, you don't get that post-coital blues.
So is it only in women then?
No. It's just a general post-coital blues for everyone.
Yeah.
Maybe everybody's crying after sex, maybe at the moment. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't have much of an explanation for I mean, apart from the drop in dopamine, I don't know what the actual function of that is.
I think you're right. I think it's to do with them retreating.
I wonder how different it feels when you experience that, because I was thinking about it being, you know, during consensual sex with someone, but then also after masturbation, and how the same chemical reaction is happening, But how that feels to kind of, I don't know, like be on your own afterwards and be with that.
Yeah, it'd be much worse.
What's the feeling?
Whoa.
Yeah.
Nearly lost you there, Nat.
I had something on my screen. I was like, sorry.
Yes. So the kind of the difference between orgasming alone and orgasming with a partner.
Yeah, because you can spoon and cutch, and then it releases the the loving hormones. Yeah.
Oxytocin, yeah.
Which is called oxytocin.
Lots of people kind of describe that if they're watching porn, that kind of that feeling. Oh, what's going on here? Is it all the masturbation?
Sorry. Masturbation ghost.
Sorry. Yeah, lots of people kind of describe when they're using porn to masturbate, they have that real drop in prolactin afterwards, and then they're kind of left with this situation of like, oh, do I feel awful because of what I've been watching? Do I feel awful because of what I'm doing? Is this shameful? Like, should I not be, like, all of those kind of questions. So yeah, I guess there's a chemical explanation for why these things happen.
It's just your dopamine, babes. You're all right.
Dopamine.
Don't you worry. I suppose that brings us on to something else we wanted to talk about, sexuality, which is sexual fantasies.
Oh, child.
Yeah, the kind of things people might think about that arouse them or masturbate to. Taboo subject?
Yeah, it's taboo, but it's completely bloody normal.
Not taboo for us.
Yeah, not to, yeah. Actually, I was thinking this earlier when we kind of were discussing doing this episode, how I've really become, what's the word? Being a psychiatrist, I get used to talking about these things so much.
Yeah, it's just like naturally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so
yeah, we probably don't talk about sex enough.
No. It's one of the most important functions.
This is why we're here.
Yeah, exactly. We are here to survive and reproduce. So a lot of things come back down to sex. Sexual fantasies, need to have sex, fear of being rejected from sex.
And I think as especially as psychiatrists, as opposed to other specialties, other doctors, maybe your GP, maybe. But I think in our specialty, when people open up to us, especially, I think we get sort of in there the most in terms of detail and depth and, connection with people. So yeah, I think we're quite lucky in that way. I think it's a really great thing to do as a job. I know some people might disagree, but yeah.
I completely agree. I'm really privileged to be in a position where people are able to share their sexual fantasy with me.
And I guess what's interesting is that a lot of, the difficulties that people experience that may come to us have started somewhere based in some sort of difficult sexual experience.
Okay.
On a spectrum of whatever that may be, but to not ask about it it's not okay, is it? It's not okay for us to not ask those questions. So yeah,
because it just reinforces the shame. You go to get into the psychiatrist's office, and once again it's like, no, you don't want to give the message that it's not spoken about. You can't speak about this. It shouldn't be taboo.
Yeah,
it's a no shame zone.
Yeah,
or have sexual desires, and sometimes they can take a rather strange or different turn.
Yeah. We've heard them all.
Yeah, I mean, the terminology for it is a paraphilia. So that's the kind of medical term for it. A paraphilia is when you have a sexual fetish, basically. That's the medical term. And there are many, many paraphilias, things that you might think about.
Many.
I mean, some of my favorite ones include the arousal one gains from the thought of being consumed by another human being.
Oh yeah.
Yes. What's
Didn't that guy pay some guy to eat him?
Yeah. It's
some German guy.
Yeah. So the idea that someone else will eat you.
Yeah. But he did.
Actually eat you. Yes.
And then he got done for murder, and he was like, it was consensual.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a whole range. They kind of.
That is a thing. Google it.
That was one end of the spectrum.
Sorry. I should have started with something normal, like, I don't know.
That person is now a patient.
Latex, whatever.
Vanilla, whatever. I don't know why I started non-mainstream. I just...
You started with being eaten.
No, we can move back from that. It's fine.
Again, psychiatrist chat. We forget. who we're talking to.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure it started with like a bit of light bondage, or maybe some latex,
With latex.
or
Bit
being
of S&M.
eaten by another human being. I read a great case story. Case story in psychiatry is when a doctor writes about a specific case with the patient's consent, so other psychiatrists can learn about it.
But it's anonymized.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, so the patient's name isn't shared, and they consent to it being the story being shared. And this was a man who could only masturbate to orgasm whilst covering himself in cow shit. So he had to go out to fields with cows in every time he wanted a wank.
How'd you get to that? Like, how do you know that's your thing? You just go around like...
So many questions.
Maybe he grew up on a farm and that's when he could do it. Do you know what I mean? Like, how did he get there?
Yeah, he must have had some sort of early childhood experience
in his wellies.
With a cow.
He went in his wellies.
I mean, we're laughing, but you know, it's the point of the case study was that actually the psychiatrist says, "Don't worry about it."
Yeah, you're not mad.
Yeah, don't worry. You're not breaking any laws. If you want to go out to a field and get some cow shit and have a wank over it,
I don't care. Again, you do you, babes.
You do you. Don't break any laws. Do not break any laws. But sexual fantasies are okay as long as you don't act on them and they break a law.
Yeah.
There's quite a big movement for, you know, men being dressed up as babies.
Oh, there is. That's becoming a big thing, isn't it?
Quite an underground scene. I think you can go places. I mean, not at the moment. Don't go to these places now. This is not. It's not recommended government advice. But yeah, I mean, places you can go and grown men will dress as babies and they will be treated like babies.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of like a billion different things. We're here to tell you whatever, innit?
Just thinking about how do you get to masturbating over cow shit?
Yeah, I don't know where we got
that.
Farmer's son, I'm going with.
Yeah, there must have been some sort of
first sexual experience in a field.
Yeah,
I think
quite interesting about sexual fantasies is that they can be really difficult to change.
Oh yeah, to reprogram.
That was another thing that came out of the case study. Is
we
sort of said that we can't. You find cow shit arousing, breaking any laws. It's fine.
You do you, babes.
Yeah, and that the point of his therapy was to help him come to terms.
Yeah.
Play.
Yeah, and again, it comes back to that idea that the distress is the feeling, the shame, I guess, again, isn't it? About I have, this turns me on. Oh shit, this doesn't turn most people on. Oh dear, this is a bit awkward. How do I tell anyone? I'm just thinking about him sharing that with someone on a date.
So what are you into? Let me tell you.
Cows.
Yeah, you into cows? Yeah, but it's fine. That's why we wanted to make this episode, because it is actually the taboo around these things that cause the psychiatric issue.
Yes, it's the shame. We're trying to get rid of the shame, because the shame is the root of quite a lot of horrible psychological stuff. Shame is very, very powerful. It's been used as a tool for lots of different things, and we're here to sort of try and rid you of that, hopefully. Cow shit, who cares, whatever.
Yeah. And actually, I don't know about you guys, but I've seen it a lot in psychosis. There's shame and sexual feelings at the heart of it.
Yeah.
Just quickly, for people who don't know, what is psychosis, very quickly?
Oh, so psychosis is a mental illness where you fail to, you lose the ability to process the world in a logical way. So you essentially lose touch with reality and you start to believe things that maybe other people don't believe.
Perfect.
Yeah. It's like an exam. Did I pass?
Oh, yeah, you did.
Excellent.
Yeah. But there are often sexual themes within the psychosis. So
quite a lot of the time.
A lot of the time, people might think, "Oh my God, there's videos of me masturbating on the internet," and actually, it's not true. But they've got it into their head, and they're so ashamed.
It's really common, and I think it's because of the shame attached to sex.
Yeah.
And it's playing on their mind in their psychosis, and it comes out in these sort of weird delusions which is basically a belief, an abnormal belief, and it seems like quite a lot of the time, it's kind of irrespective of background or gender or race or age. It always sex themed delusions always seem to pop up all the time.
Yeah,
I think it's because of the shame driving it.
They come up quite often as well in OCD as well, just kind of to name them.
That is true.
Psychiatric disorder. So in OCD, so obsessive compulsive disorder, people experience really intrusive thoughts. So they will think things, and by definition, they don't like the thoughts or the images or that they're experiencing. They feel uncomfortable. They might feel disgust about it. And again, one of the most common themes that come up there are around sexual themes. And and it's so fundamental, isn't it, kind of to our being, this whole idea that all, we have sex to bring us here and create us. Yet it's one of the things that we're most shamed about. And
if anybody wants to understand that a bit more, there's a really good program on, I think it's BBC, called Pure. Have you seen that?
Pure, yeah.
About a girl with OCD who has intrusive sexual thoughts. It's really good. Gotta rid that shame. Gotta rid it.
There is a school of thought about humanity's greatest issue is that actually we all have incestuous sexual desires very early on.
Oh, Freud loves that shit.
Yeah, very Freudian, very Freudian.
He loves it.
Freud loves a bit of incest. That was Freud's, that's kind of what psychoanalysis is based on, isn't it? Freud's thinking that
that's his whole bag.
Yeah, we have early sexual desires towards our parents, so the parent of the opposite sex.
Yeah, we've got the Oedipus complex.
That messes us up for life because we repress it.
Oh, Freud.
Jury's out. I don't know about it, but
I think Freud was a bit of a perv, to be honest.
He was a cocaine addict, so
he's a baddie then.
There's a Netflix series about it. Have you seen it? It's called Freud, I think.
Oh no, that's awful.
Yeah.
It's like, doesn't he solve crimes or something? Honestly, it's just terrible.
What? There's a show about Freud.
Yeah, it's like a Netflix series.
Really did introduce some new ideas. Probably all the cocaine. Probably helped him.
Probably, yeah. Just a cokehead.
It's just a cokehead.
This is a cokehead with a high sex drive, I mean.
That's going to go on his grave. Oh, no, wait, he's already dead. Wait. That's going to go on his gravestone. Coke addict with high sex drive. So, I'm going to have to cut a lot of this.
Oh, it's fine.
We're just musing. It's fine.
So, interestingly, the only fetish or paraphilia that is predominantly female is the submissive position in S&M. It is the only fetish that more females experience than men. I think that's really interesting.
That's so interesting.
So
tell us more.
So the fantasy, so I think it's about 70% of women will at some point have a fantasy about being dominated by a man. So sexual fantasy where they are submissive to a male partner. And I think this is a heterosexual, I can find the reference if you want it, but about 70% of women will have that fantasy at some point.
That's a big percentage.
It's huge.
Massive.
And it's particularly interesting because I think all other sexual paraphilias, it's pretty much all dominated by men.
As is life.
Yeah, like everything else. Well, what do you think is going on?
What's going on? Yeah.
Why that specific paraphilia? Why the submissive paraphilia?
I mean, we could do a whole other episode on this.
Yeah. I wonder if it's I don't know. Sometimes there's something called the sexual defense. So sometimes we sexualize things that is actually terrifying to us. So the idea of actually being dominated by a man is so frightening. It is easier to sexualize it.
It's more palatable.
So it's like it's in a controlled environment.
Exactly. So then you control the thing that frightens you the most.
Clever.
Very clever. And it's I think it is a healthy way of processing something as well. it's not a unhealthy defense mechanism to do that.
I said in that case you just sexualize. Shall I sexualize spiders then? Because I hate them. They really freak me out.
Please don't do that, Nataly.
Well, what? You said it was a healthy coping mechanism. I'm like, what do you mean?
I don't think they're going to dominate you though.
If there is one thing,
legs.
if there's one thing that is not sexy, it is spiders. Okay.
Yeah, no, they're fucking terrifying.
And I know we're saying that any sexual fantasy is okay, but spiders is not.
I know. What was wrong with you?
So that is us signing off. I hope you enjoyed not feeling ashamed about masturbation.
Woo!
I feel good. I might go masturbate.
I feel great.
Fucking great.
Woo! Psychiatry!
Bye.
Bye.
Sex doesn't have to end when the man orgasms. Just bear that in mind.
That's a whole nother fucking kettle of fish.
I talk about sex in my therapy, I think. I mean, he always asks me what I'm masturbating about.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And then I pay him.
It's mad, isn't it? He finishes the session and goes, have a wank.
I mean, at the moment, people are advised to not go out and have sex with other people unless they are in their household.
Yes.
So do your bit for COVID and stay at home and masturbate.
And now, when you feel icky afterwards, you know why.
Yeah, so don't worry about it.
Again,
No shame in masturbation or sexual fantasies. Everybody has them.
time for the outro.